All right, number 5 in your assignment. You have open number 5.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
It's a good thing I don't hold grudges.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's what number 5 looked like in your assignment. We learned yesterday the formulas for the 3 sides. You can tell me these 3 side formulas, Masson.
The shorter side is just A.
Okay, which is the shorter side for me?
X.
So this is A.
The us. Yeah. Oh, it's 45 by the. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other X is A.
And the other X is A. And then what's the hypotenuse?
A radical 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
A radical 2 is the hypotenuse. So we have to find A. What we do know, by looking at it right now, is we know that A radical 2 is equal to A. I know that those two are equal to each other. So we have to solve for A. How do I solve this equation to get A by itself? Divide by square root of 2, or radical 2. So we divide by radical 2, those cancel out, we get A equals 8 divided by square root of 2. Now, this is where, we didn't do any like this yesterday, so this is where there's a few of these in your assignment that end up having something divided by a radical or divided by a square root, and you should have learned last year that we don't leave square roots in the denominator. If it's simplified all the way, there's never a square root in the denominator. You guys remember doing this at all last year? So you don't remember it or you do remember it, we're going to fix it. In order to not, in order to not have a square root of 2 in the denominator, you have to multiply this fraction by the same number on top and bottom, so it's still equal to this fraction. We're going to multiply the same number top and bottom. We're going to multiply. We're going to multiply by something that keeps that is exactly the same on top and bottom, so it's like multiplying by the value of 1. But on the bottom, it's going to make square root of 2 times square root of 2 turn into square root of 2 squared, which is what we were doing yesterday a bunch. When you multiply a number that is not under a radical with a number that is under a radical, you just put them together. So if you didn't do this, you can use your pencil and add this to your assignment. If you stopped at 8 divided by square root of 2, please do this with me. So from here, you multiply by square root of 2 times square root of 2. And when we do that, we get square root of 2 squared on the bottom. And what happens when we have the square root of 2 and square it? Turns into 2. It cancels out the square root and the squared. So now we have A equals 8 square root 2 over just 2. We don't have a square root in the bottom anymore. But there is one more step for this one. You are allowed to reduce fractions, and you can only reduce things that are in the same location. So either they're both not under the radical or they're both under a radical. So do you see how my 8 and my 2 are both not under the radical? So we can reduce the 8 and 2 by dividing by what number? Dividing by 2. So now we have 4 square root 2 over 1. I don't have to write the over 1. So 4 square root 2 is the right answer for number 5. Now, on that same page of the worksheet, on that same page, which is why I asked you to have the worksheet open as well, on that same page, is there another question that you had to divide by a square root? Maybe you remembered to do that last step, but maybe you didn't. Is there another question on that same page? 5 was the top of the page. Is there another question on that same page that you had to divide by a square root? I don't see a lot of people with their thing open. Did you not open it? Yeah, that one you didn't do that one.
Yeah, I did. Didn't I do it right?
Oh, I was looking here. I didn't go over here. No, you did not do it. Well, I can help you with that one. Did you not do it? Okay. Did you do your assignment? Okay, so I didn't look at Tiffany, but 4 people in a row that have a double check.
They did.
Was there another class where you divided by square root?
I did.
But those cancel out.
I did these wrong.
Is there, so I'm not saying divided by square root. I mean divided by square root, but it wasn't like they canceled out. Like this one had 8 divided by square root, and I couldn't cancel out square root. Okay, let me answer that question later when I'm not recording the video. Number 8. I'll go check my work up there, but I don't think number 8 is actually so potentially number 8 will be wrong. So can you fix number 9? Did you do yours now? What happened to number 5? We just did number 5. Why don't you have that corrected? Find another one? All right, so you guys, you can sit here and complain, or we can fix things. You know that E plus R equals O. E plus R equals O. So your internet didn't work. I forgot to post the video. E plus R equals O. It is posted now.
Yeah, I saw.
Yeah. E plus R equals O. So I will come around, and some of you still have questions. I heard only 2 people. I didn't ask every single person. Did you figure it out, Hayden? Do you know which number in front of you on the same page? Yeah, 9. So I've only had 3 people that have asked, and I didn't ask any yet, that I've actually asked and could tell me the correct answer. It is number 9, another one you have to do it. You have to also do it again in the table. So number 9 is another one you have to do this with. And then in the tables, you have to do it once in each table. So I'm just telling you this, so if you don't ever have to do this, then maybe you've done something wrong. Okay? And if you did this for a different question, maybe you've done something wrong. I haven't told you every single question, but I will tell you for sure once in each table. For sure number 9. Okay, there is another thing I need to go over. The next thing I need to go over is number 24. Okay, number 24. They ask you a few questions, but one of the questions that I definitely need to go over is the question where they say, find the, oh, no, there's 2 things I need to go over. The first part is I need to go over where they say 1-to-1 pitch. So I read that and I was like, how many people are going to actually look that up on the internet, even though you have the internet or Siri or Google, just to be like, what's 1-to-1 pitch? If you don't know what it is, skip it, right? No. Figure it out. If you don't know what it is, figure it out. So what is 1-to-1 pitch? It says 1-to-1 pitch. 1-to-1 pitch is saying, and it's talking about the roof. What's it saying? Is it saying that for every 1 unit that we go over, we're also going to go up the same amount. So those could be small units. They could be a big unit. It's just saying that For every amount that you go over, you go up the same amount. This is telling you that this is a what kind of triangle that I just outlined in blue. Isosceles right triangle, which tells me what about the angles? Jordan, what kind of angles are in an isosceles right triangle? There is a right angle. What about the other two? 45. Isosceles right triangle is 45, 45, 90. So 45, 45, 90, that's going to help you answer some of that. The other part that it says is it says to find the area of the entire roof. And when I looked at this, I was like, well, is the roof just the two sides, or does the roof include this part as well, the triangle? I mean, they don't really say. So I just want to tell you this is what I want you to do. Regardless of what the real answer is, I don't know, I didn't look it up. I would like you to find the area of this part and the sides and the back. The back is the same as the front. Okay, so I want you to find the entire roof, including the front face and back face. It's good practice. I just want to clarify that so you know what to do when we grade it. Okay, and then the last questions that a lot of people had in my first bell that I want to go over on this video, so you have it, so anybody else has it, is when they started their review assignment that I just passed out. There are a few questions that just kept happening over and over again. So I'm going to go over 3 things. And it just has to do with square roots because you haven't done a lot of them. The first one, if we have square root of 3 multiplied by the square root of 5. I'm making these up. Square root of 3 multiplied by the square root of 5. Can you multiply together square roots? You can. Do you know how? Square root of 15. Yeah. So if they are separate square roots, you can multiply them. Since they're both under the square root, you can multiply them together. What if I have 2 square root 3 multiplied by 4? 8 square root 3. So you can only multiply by the things that are kind of in that same location. So you can multiply the 2 and 4 together, but you can't multiply by 3. Yes?
In the square root 3 times square root 5, why does the square root cancel out?
Because the square root of 15 isn't a perfect square. If I did square root of 2 times square root of 8, what would that give me? Square root of 16, which is 4. So because I didn't actually take a square root, it's not gone. The only time that it goes away is if you actually find the square root of that number. So when we're doing things like square root of 2 multiplied by square root of 2, and we get square root of 2 squared, and I'm telling you it cancels out, that's because square root of 2 times square root of 2 is equal to square root of 4. And the square root of 4 is the number 2. That's why it cancels out. It's because when I times these numbers together, they make a perfect square. Okay? The last thing that I saw a lot of people asking me questions about, this is a major one. Let's say I have 5 square root 12 times by, no, it doesn't matter, just 5 square root 12. 5 square root 12. Is this square root 12 in simplest form? Oops. Is square root 12 in simplest form? Or can it break down further? Is 6 over 2 a perfect square? No. But 4 goes into it. So because it can break down further, we need to break it down further. And what is the square root of 4? So 2 loses the square root symbol. But what about square root of 3? It can't take the square root, so it keeps the square root symbol. But that's not the answer. to my purple question. That's only the answer to square root of 12. We still have a 5 here. So this is what people kept asking me today. What do I do with the 5 and 2? I multiply them. For some reason, everybody wants to add them. We have to multiply these because originally they are multiplied. There's not a symbol there, but originally they're multiplied. So I multiply these, and I would get 10 square root 3 for that answer. So those are kind of the 3 things that on the special right triangle practice on today's review that people had questions on. So if you are still working on yesterday's assignment that was due today, I can answer questions for you. If you're working on the review, and I didn't say this, but in the review, there's 2 papers. Hold on. There's 2 pages. The first page, front and back, is 9-1, which is Pythagorean theorem. The second page, front and back, is 9-2, which is special right triangles. There is not triples in that review, other than maybe one of the Pythagorean questions is a triple. There's not triples in there, so that's where that Quizlet comes to help you study for your triples. Okay, so if you need practice with Pythagorean review or Pythagorean do Pythagorean theorem, then do that part of the review. If you need help on special right triangles, do that part of the review. I'm going to answer your questions. I'm going to help you as much as I can in the next 22 minutes. Okay? Do not clean up early unless you're totally done with your worksheet. And then I will post this video too.